Welcome to the Leadership Bits and Bytes podcast, featuring Rhoda Cruiser, CEO of Partners in Action.
Good morning. We're excited to have another edition of Leadership Bits and Bytes. At Partners in Action, we're always excited about talking about success stories in our community, leaders who are doing great things that are just making a real impact. And today we have Carol Helsel from Third Coast Test and Balance. She is the general manager there. Carol has a rich history of leadership, both professionally as well as personally within the community, serves on I don't know how many boards, and has had a great deal of experience in really leading teams. And so today I'm just excited to talk with you, Carol, and learn more about your story. So thank you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So Carol, maybe start out and tell us a little bit about Third Coast and what you do there.
So Third Coast Test and Balance, it's what I will call a not very well-known aspect of heating and cooling in commercial buildings. So we are the heating and cooling specialists when it comes to optimizing the HVAC system and making sure that it works the way it's supposed to work.
Okay.
So I'll expand on that just a little bit. So when you have a system in a building, you have generally maintenance staff or someone that does preventative maintenance on the system, maybe changes filters and tweaks it here and there. You might have an automated building control system. If something breaks, you would call a service company to come out and fix it. Our service, though, that we provide is really a more of an umbrella approach of understanding all aspects of the system and being able to take a very deep dive into that system and make sure it's working the way it's intended to, or adjust it if it's not. Okay. So we are problem solvers, is what I like to say. We investigate and we determine what the issue is and we solve it. So we aren't the type of service that you're going to call back.
Okay.
That's not our goal. Our goal is to solve your problem with your system so that people are comfortable, there's even temperature, the system's efficient, there's proper ventilation, and so you don't see us again.
Yay, that sounds like a marvelous idea. And so what are some of the typical things that you find go wrong with those systems? Because I'm sure that probably for most, for instance, I noticed you mentioned even temperature, and I'm here to say, like most buildings I'm in, I've rarely ever had people say, oh, it functions perfectly all the way through.
Yeah, that's a very common issue that we run into. So what causes it is when a building is built or it's remodeled or renovated, the system itself is balanced. So there's a process that the system is tested and then balanced. That's part of building code. But from that point forward, lots of things can happen. One example would be you change the way a space is used. So maybe you have a conference room and you've grown and you need more workstations. So then you convert that over to workstations with cubicles. Now you have 6 people, 6 computers in this room that was a conference room. So you're changing the way the space is being used without adjusting the system accordingly. The other thing is people will sometimes decide that they want to adjust it themselves. So there's a lot of people, maybe they're cold, so they might themselves stick a piece of cardboard up in the vent because they're cold. Well, now the air is being redirected somewhere else. There's just a lot of adjustments that people themselves are making. Space is being utilized differently. And sometimes the equipment, things might freeze up that are supposed to be moving, like a damper is something that adjusts to allow air to flow, and that may be not quite adjusting properly.
Okay. It is amazing. You don't always think about those things that you decide to do or change in your facility that would have an impact on that. And so as a result of that, does that have other impacts other than just the temperature change in an office? What other things do you find that are impacted by the quality of airflow and so forth?
Yeah, there's several things. One big one is the health of people in the building. So there's research out there that one of the top 5 causes of early death of people, and I think it's number 3 or 4, is indoor air quality. So you think about, excuse me, a person who maybe, as I clear my throat, has asthma or other respiratory issues going on, and that can be exacerbated by poor quality of air. The common one that people are familiar with is in the wintertime, colds and flu, right? So colds and flu are worse in the wintertime, and it's because we're indoors. And the air, if it's not ventilating those germs out of the building, so it's just circulating around, then that's going to cause health issues. The other one that most people are familiar with is in the middle of the afternoon, people kind of get a little bit sleepy maybe, and so there's a loss of productivity. If you have proper ventilation, there are studies that show that productivity is improved because you don't have that slip off in the middle of the afternoon. And then the third thing I would mention is simply satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and customer satisfaction. And we have real stories of businesses who have lost customers and employees due to the comfort in the building and how they feel about that.
Yeah. That's a lot coming out of something that I think we tend to take for granted, and just assuming that the air is there, it's fine, and we don't really stop to think about it. So very important work that you're doing. Tell me about your team. As we think about leading a team, there's so many dimensions to it. And I'm curious, what are some of the things that you look for as you are seeking maybe people to add people to your team?
So what I'm looking for team members, I have a unique challenge in that because HVAC testing and balancing is a specialty area, there aren't a lot of talented people to pull from. So most testing and balancing agencies are smaller firms, and when I am recruiting someone, it's not very often I'm going to find someone who's already done testing and balancing. I can find HVAC service techs, I can find people who have installed systems, but I can't find someone who's tested and balanced it. So I'm not looking for someone who has done this type of work. So what I'm looking for is someone who has the qualities that would make for a good test and balance technician, and for us to train them from the ground up. The qualities I'm looking for specifically to the role, someone who is mechanically inclined, so maybe they like to fix things around their home or do minor repairs on their car, someone who was strong in school in math and science. There's math and science that goes into what we do. And then aside from that, I'm looking for someone who has a strong work ethic. They're eager to learn. They recognize that learning is continuous. They have a good value system. They are team oriented. We're a very teamwork based company. And so there are many qualities I'm looking for in a candidate. But the unique thing about us is that I'm not looking for necessarily a test and balance technician. I have, however, had opportunities to interview people in the test and balance world who have done this work. And I can think of 2 situations where I had an opportunity to hire highly skilled test and balance technician, or even a test and balance engineer with many years in the industry, but did not possess the qualities we were looking for, so I passed on them as a candidate. I'm looking for long-term employment and long-term commitment, not the revolving door.
That's great. What are some of the things as you think about your role as general manager, and I'm sure there are many different facets to that leadership, Are there maybe one or two things that you feel have been really important for you to serve in that leadership role well?
Yes, as I mentioned, we are a team-based organization. So when we have team meetings, we have monthly team meetings, a portion of that meeting is devoted to what is working well, what is not working well. And when we talk about what is not working well, how can we collectively solve that and make that work well? So there are not circumstances where I am in a top-down leadership mode and I'm telling everybody what we're going to do about something. I want their feedback, I want their input, because they're the ones that are actually doing the work. The other thing is we have self-directed teams. So our technicians and engineers are almost functioning more like a mini project manager. So they are responsible for their projects. They're responsible for communication. They're responsible for scheduling. They're responsible for doing the work as it's supposed to be done. So they're given autonomy and empowerment, and I am managing towards the results that we're achieving.
Great. What's kind of your vision moving forward? What are the things that you're hoping to accomplish or that you think would be exciting to see happen in the future?
I'm really hoping that our profession, our test and balance profession, gains more notice, I guess, as a solution-oriented component of your building system. And as I said, if we have a phone call of someone who has a problem in their building, we will come out without charging you a service charge to have a conversation and to see if it's something we think we can help with. We will investigate your system many times, well, not many times. There are times that we discover it's not an HVAC issue. It might be an issue with your windows or your building envelope or your insulation. So if we identify that, we will refer you to someone who can take care of that for you. And as I said earlier, we're balancing your system for efficiency, comfort, and health, and our goal is to not return. So our big picture, long-term goal here is that really testing and balancing would become more well-known and more utilized because it is a cost-effective solution to the problems that you may have. The second piece of that I'll briefly mention is we have competitors like everybody does. And also like all companies or most companies, there are people who do this work with excellence and people who don't. So our goal is that the companies, not just Third Coast, but the companies that are doing the work with excellence are very successful, and that we show our customer the difference between a company that does the work with excellence and one that doesn't, because it frustrates me very much when we come in after a competitor and realize what we're walking into that wasn't done with excellence.
Absolutely. If you were talking to a fairly new leader who's maybe just starting to figure out what it means to lead, what's one tip that you might share with them that you've learned along the way that you wish somebody had shared with you at the beginning?
I can think of many, of course, but one I would mention is I have been a fan a long time of Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The seek first to understand has always been a favorite of mine, and that ties into continuous learning. So as a new leader, I would strongly encourage people to ask a lot of questions and try to understand why things are the way they are, why you're being told to do something a certain way, why an employee might be thinking a certain way or doing something a certain way, but approach every situation from the standpoint of, I don't understand. I'm not understanding something. I'm missing something. That's also a humble approach to leadership too, and part of servant leadership is you always start with, I'm not understanding something. I'm missing something here.
That's awesome. If people were interested in finding out more about Third Coast, how would they go about reaching out to you?
The easiest way is there's a contact email in our website. Our website is, rather than give the whole website, if you were to Google Third Coast Test and Balance, our name,
Okay.
we should be the first one that pops up.
Okay.
And so I would say go to our website, and there's an info at or contact at, and that goes directly to my email.
Perfect.
So that's probably the easiest way. And again, we are very happy to have conversations and not put a service charge on that. We just really want the commercial buildings that people are in to be comfortable and the systems to last as long as it can possibly last before it has to be replaced.
That is exciting. It's great to know that we have solutions to things that a lot of us just put up with and we think there's nothing that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
But really we can be comfortable and productive and have a great experience in our workspaces. So thank you so much for sharing that with us and for giving us a glimpse into leadership, which I know is very important to you as
Yes.
well. It's one of those areas that makes such a difference to all of us. So thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.